Sacrifice. The surrender or destruction of something prized or desirable for the sake of something considered as having a higher or more pressing claim.
December 7th, 1941, a date which will live in infamy.
Tonight, the government of the United States is at war with Japan.
Soldiers, sailors, and airmen of the Allied Expeditionary Force, the eyes of the world are upon you. The hopes and prayers of liberty-loving people everywhere march with you.
When the signal is given, the whole circle of avenging nations will hurl themselves upon the foe.
Under the command of General Eisenhower, Allied naval forces, supported by strong air forces, began landing Allied armies this morning on the northern coast of France.
The people of Normandy are celebrating their liberation. The church bells are ringing.
The German radio has just announced that Hitler is dead.
Berlin has fallen.
The war is over. The Japanese have surrendered.
August 15th, 1945, marked the end of World War II, a day of significant joy and celebration, a time also to reflect on those lost and the sacrifices made. After 6 years of global war, the deadliest conflict in human history was finally over. Honor, honesty, fairness, or integrity in one's beliefs and actions. Nearly 60 years later, on April 29, 2004, 2 days before Memorial Day, the U.S. National World War II Memorial opened to the public. After numerous failed attempts to pass legislation through Congress to begin the memorial's construction, the World War II Memorial Act finally became a reality. Nearly 60 years after the war's completion, a memorial had finally been erected. 7 months later, in December of 2004, Earl Morris asked one of his World War II veteran patients if he could personally fly him to view the memorial, free of charge. Earl Morris was a physician assistant and retired Air Force captain who had numerous World War II veterans as patients. Their desire to see the memorial inspired him to find a way to fulfill those dreams, and Honor Flight was born. About 5 months later, 6 small planes flew 12 very happy veterans out to Washington, D.C. to see the memorials built in their honor. Since then, Honor Flight has grown considerably, with 69 hubs in 30 states, which recently includes Minnesota. In January of 2008, Jerry Kaiser, who's the executive director of Minnesota Vietnam Veterans Charity, received a phone call from Al Bailey, who is one of the directors from Honor Flight in Springfield, Ohio. Al presented the idea to Jerry of starting up an Honor Flight trip in Minnesota and asked Jerry if he would head it up. Jerry enthusiastically accepted and began the process of planning the first Minnesota Honor Flight trip. Jerry's organization, Minnesota Vietnam Veterans Charity, began their planning and formed the Minnesota Honor Flight Hub in June of 2008. 95 veterans and 49 guardians boarded a charter flight from Minneapolis International Airport and began the journey to Washington, D.C.
So it's been a real place to have the World War II people finally be recognized.
Wonderful trip before I go into the wild blue yonder.
I wasn't sure how I was ever going to get to see it, so this is a terrific thing that's happening.
Upon arrival at Reagan International Airport, the plane that carried the veterans was ceremoniously sprayed with water to honor them. Airline employees on the tarmac carried flags and waved to the plane as it taxied to the gate. Walking through the red, white, and blue decorated jetway, the veterans were greeted with thunderous applause, cheers, and a band as they walked into the terminal. Those that walked by couldn't help but get involved and clap too. At the World War II Memorial, Senator Bob Dole took pictures with the veterans. As the veterans experienced the memorial, emotions seemed to sweep from joy and pride to somber remembrance of the sacrifices made and friends that were not able to be there with them. From memorial to memorial, it was impossible to miss the camaraderie that was taking place with the veterans and the guardians. Stories were shared and lives intersected on honored ground, revering those lost for the greater gain. On the return trip home to Minneapolis, the plane buzzed with the energy of the day's experiences.
I like the camaraderie too.
We kept America free for you. Now, my dear
for young people, it's your turn to keep America free for us.
I can't possibly thank everybody for this trip. It was outstanding, and I'll never forget it.
Once the plane landed and deboarded, the veterans made their way to the terminal to find that it was filled with family and friends, waving flags and cheering, welcoming them home from a trip that none who were on it will ever forget. A generation to be honored and cherished, with the time that is left to do it in. The youngest veteran from World War II is now 79.